when I became a head coach, I was absolutely desperate to be a head coach because I've always been critical. I don't mean that as a negative. I've always thought I liked that. I loved that. I wouldn't do it like that. I would change that. And when I became a head coach, I was just like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to do everything. And actually, I needed to go through that to become a better head coach because I was a pain in the tonsils to the players and everybody because I was trying to, I think the term now is micromanage. Like I wanted to do everything and have everything sorted. Whereas actually what I needed to realize was there was people in front of me as an amateur coach who had been at work and rugby was their hobby and, they were giving up some time to come and do it. And as I became a coach, the longer I was a coach, I had moments where I thought, there's 55 guys here who are all waiting for me to blow the whistle. That's crazy power to have. Unbelievable power to have. But then I come to those two things that I've now realized are the two things I think are important, which are responsibility and kindness. I was responsible to give those people the best experience they could in the time they were given up to come to train and to play. But I didn't know that at the beginning of being a head coach. They were there to serve me. They were there because I wanted to be a professional head coach, and they had to do what I was asking them to do because that was what was going to be the best and that was what was going to make us win. And it took me a while to realize what was the most important thing dealing with people in that position.
Mate, it's exactly like you said. I remember a complete different sidetrack, but it's quite similar as how you were talking about amateur rugby. I remember, so my first ever adult team I played for was down in Walkerburn because I'd fallen out of the game, and one of my, you might know his dad actually, a friend of mine, Stephen Irvin. His dad's Pete Irvin. He's famous. He's famous for all the right and all the best reasons. He's like, but I remember he invited me down. And he was like, come to Walkerburn and you'll never look at rugby the same way again. And it's like, I don't know your experiences with Walkerburn. I hope you've been to the Prince of the Sevens tournament at one point.
Walkerburn, when I was with a charity team called the Pigbarians, we went down for Walkerburn's, what would it be, 100th for a celebration game, and we played them on the Friday night. And I think they had about 40 boys to choose from, yet the following day they couldn't raise 15 for their league game. But we had it was reasonably star-studded. We had some quality boys in there. And we kicked off and Walkerburn knocked on and we got a scrum on the right-hand side of the pitch at Walkerburn playing towards Peebles. I'll never forget this. The ball comes out of scrum and it comes to me at standoff and I throw it straight to Scott Hastings, who's at 13.
You took Scott Hastings to a Walkerburn rugby game.
Scott threw it straight to Rory Cooper, who was on the left wing, who is Boroughmuir's all-time top try scorer, played sevens for Scotland. Brilliant guy, Coops. Throws it straight to Coops and Coops runs and scores in the corner. And as Coops dots it down, the Walkerburn 12 smacks Scott Hastings like 3.5 weeks after he's passed the ball. But he was able to say he hit Scott Hastings, but honestly, it was like the ref could never have seen it because the play had gone. And Scott sort of dusted himself down as he gets up, and I was just laughing because I just wanted to applaud the boy because he just put a late smash on a British Lion. Now Walkerburn, but that's it. Walkerburn was full of people playing because they loved playing, and they just want. That's, to me, rugby's my social event. So I say I don't go to the pub, but I would happily go to a rugby clubhouse. I'd go to training. I would, when I played at, when I coached at Boroughmuir, it was some of the happiest, but some of the, I don't know what the word is. There was some challenges, but when I was coaching with Steve Bates, who had been Newcastle Falcons, the Borders. Batesy was an assistant coach, and Ben Fisher, who's now in New Zealand working for New Zealand Rugby Union, but a Boroughmuir legend. So I was head coach with Fish and Batesy, and we would finish training, and the three of us would stand in the middle of a pitch at Megaland for ages. And sometimes it was so cold and so wet. We would just stand and chew the fat after training. about serious stuff, about nonsense, about players, about game, about Scotland, about Scottish rugby, about world. And that was like, I'd get home at silly o'clock, and it's hard to explain what were you doing? We were just talking.
Yeah.
We were
I
there was
couldn't tell
no
you. Yeah.
there was no real purpose to it. Like, it didn't necessarily make us a better team or club or coaches, but it was what we wanted and needed, was that social interaction. And I want my assistant coaches have often been, for the period of time I've worked with them, my absolute best mates. Ian Jeffrey, who was with me at Murrayfield Wanderers, and a bit of Boroughmuir, who's from Leith but played with Selkirk. And whenever MD heard you're working with Ian Jeffrey, he was a dirty little, because Jeffers was at a time where the hooker was small and mad. Cakes Robertson, who's now living in Dubai, Cakes was with me at Murrayfield Wanderers, and we were speaking to each other 3, 4, 5 times a day. We were at training. So my assistant coaches over the period, and I've had a lot of clubs and a lot of coaches because I'm probably difficult to work with. But we've built unbelievable bonds and shared experiences that, change it. The thing I miss, while I said playing when you asked your quick fire question, the thing I miss about playing is the changing room. That's, you can't replicate that anywhere, the changing room. And as a coach with Cakes and Roops, Rupeni, my mate, my Fijian mate, who's on the wall behind me here, he's now back in Fiji. We took it in turns before games. We'd always have a can of Coke, because I love Coke. It's I'll never give up full fat Coke, but the three of us, we'd always have a Coke together, and we would take it in turns to go and buy the Cokes. And that's not really for social media. It doesn't really mean anything to anybody. And obviously it wasn't the Coke that was important. It's a bit like when you say to somebody, I'll meet you for coffee. Actually, the coffee, well, to me, the coffee is not what's important. The chat is what's important. The can of Coke was just that little symbol that for the time the boys were on their own, we were on our own in our little changing room with our can of Coke, chewing the fat. And those are bits I can't find anywhere else. You don't get those in a staff room. You don't get those, when you just bump. Those changing room moments are worth more than money.
No, I completely. God, you're making me really miss rugby.
and I do, and I would like that's. I can remember being at Gala as just out of school, thought, I was destined for glory, and there would be guys in their mid-20s giving up the game, and I think, what's going on? How can you do that? But I get it. Life moves on. Priorities change, injury, at the time I was coming out of school, the game was going through that weird thing of amateur into professional, and people didn't really know what it was, and it changed the game forever.